Welcome to the Biz Connection, a show dedicated to the education, motivation, inspiration, and empowerment of business entrepreneurs everywhere. Now, here are your hosts, Jim Rossetti and Ron Nielsen.
Okay, we're coming at you once more. We're talking business right here on the radio as we do every week. I'm your host, Jim Rossetti, along with Mr. Ron Nielsen. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, everybody.
We are ready to go. We're ready to talk biz. We got a great show. One of my favorite authors is back. Mr. Wayne Breitbarth will be on in just a little bit.
That's right. We're going to talk about social networking, specifically
Yep.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yes. And for the folks who social media is really gravitated toward the mainstream now. Everybody's into it, and we got to go back and revisit it. It's
That's
time
right.
to do it.
That's
So-
right. You want to learn about this from your business. It's also good. It can also be good if you are looking for a job and all those kinds of things to
It
help
sure can.
really
Yep.
elevate your presence.
And to build a following, too.
That's right.
Okay, we are America's all-business talk show on the radio. We come to you every week, and if you've been listening to our show, you know that our motto is behind every business there's a story to tell. And on the Biz Connection, we like to keep telling them. And our show is really on a mission. We're on a mission to do a number of things for folks. And number one is to educate people. And I think this show will do that today. And many of the shows we do.
That's right. I get educated every week.
We do. We're getting smarter all the time. I can just tell, Ron, you look smarter.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, anyway, we educate, we motivate, we hopefully inspire people because I couldn't get more inspired by some of the stories I'm hearing. People who have started and reached some turbulent times in getting off the ground, but they didn't give up. They persevered, and they're realizing their dream, and they're loving it.
That is the key.
Yeah.
Persevere.
You don't work it, you love your way through it. It is
That's right.
absolutely a labor of love. And we like to hopefully empower folks to maybe start their own business, strengthen their own business, expand it, and then hopefully along the way we're entertaining a little bit too.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Entrepreneurship is kind of the foundation of the economy, has been for many years and continues to be today.
It is. And so we kind of look at ourselves as a clearinghouse for business resources. So, and that's what I think we're going to bring to folks again today. So our guests include business owners, experts, business coaches, business authors, like our author is this morning.
He's an author and a businessman.
And a businessman, and got his own entrepreneurial story to
That's
tell.
right.
So, and hardworking entrepreneurs, people that have really persevered. And we always like to profile an iconic entrepreneur that you can guess the identity of, and hopefully when one of our guests today wrote this book called LinkedIn Success. This is a revised edition. So he's going to, we're going to be awarding this to one of our listeners today.
An autographed copy at that.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, I wanted to, because one of our sponsors is BNI, or Business Networking International, if you don't know what I mean by BNI. BNI, and the reason I bring that up is because, yes, they're one of our sponsors, but we like to highlight networking because I know, Ron, you're a BNI member. I think Wayne here is a tremendous networker, and all of us are, and that's how we build businesses and how we build relationships.
Everybody says that networking is one of their primary marketing tactics, but there is a science to it.
There's definitely, and that's why I was going to give out these definitions. And I think the number one definition I'd like to give out to folks, and I'd like to give them a different one each week for the next several weeks, but the number one is what I call the definition of networking itself. And I've got a definition written out here. It's the cultivating of mutually beneficial give and take win-win relationships.
Give and take, win-win.
Yes, yeah. That's a mouthful.
It really is.
Let me
but
read it
it's
once
true.
again. The cultivating of mutually beneficial win-win, give and take win-win relationships. And if somebody is getting something out of the relationship and the other person's not, then you got an unbalanced relationship.
That's right.
So as long as it's working in LinkedIn and some of the social medias that are no different, I think we're all in the networking game, and But this is the actual face-to-face networking.
That's right.
I probably one of our chamber mixers after hours is one of the things that readily comes to mind. You're handing out business
right.
cards.
And in reality, that's one of the things that people who are just getting into business, they kind of struggle with. Meeting people, learning how to network, those kinds of things.
And if you're uncomfortable, some folks meeting new people and strangers, then you're going to have to learn to overcome that comfort zone thing and
right.
and learn how to. And there are some techniques, and we'll give those as we go along here each week.
Good stuff.
And did you have something for us?
No, go ahead.
Okay, last week I started with, I told you I'd participated in that Biz Expo in Milwaukee. It was a great trade show. And the Lifetime Achievement Award was given out to a gentleman by the name of Michael Cudahy, who is quite the entrepreneur. And I know he has written books, and I know he is the grandson of Patrick Cudahy, who founded the Sausage Company or and Bacon Company or whatever, and it's a food product
service
company.
or food. Yep.
In Cudahy, actually, the city of Cudahy is named after him. And he had his 10 golden rules on how to run an organization, and I found these fascinating, and I agreed with every one of them. And I'm quickly going to recap the first 6 because we went through those last week. And number 1, he said, stay financially independent. He doesn't believe that you should bring in venture capitalists to your business too early on. Number 2, don't have meetings. Now, he believes meetings usually don't decide anything, and they're a big waste of time. And if you've come out of the corporate environment, as I have, both of us, we both had meeting backgrounds. And we come in, and he also said never make an organizational chart because it puts people in little boxes. It pigeonholes them. Promote from within, good advice, and don't hire consultants every time you have a problem.
Not every time.
Not every time.
Hire coaches.
Business coaches can work just fine. And then have a love affair with your employees. With that said, that's the first 6. Now, the 7th one was give away the store to your employees. He believes strongly in rewarding your employees. Sure, they have to earn it in some way. He's not saying just give it to them. But most bosses lean way too far the other way. And they look at them as being above the employees. And he has optioned, granted, and sold, and otherwise given 4 gigantic parts of his company to employees from the top, bottom. If we're coming up on a break, why don't I finish this as we come
we're not
back?
coming up. I just want to make sure we have time for our mystery entrepreneur.
Oh, okay. Yep, I don't want to play it. And the next thing, number 8, don't play big shot. And I think that speaks for itself. And number 9 is ignore the competition. Now, just let me explain that. More people waste more time worrying about what competition is doing than what they do, tending to their own knitting. Just keep a steady course in the direction you feel is best. Your customers' needs, elbow grease is a good schedule or a good substitute for paranoia. And then finally, preserve your sense of humor at all costs.
It's an important one in life.
So anyway, lighten up a little bit, okay? There you have the 10.
Okay, here we go with our mystery entrepreneur. I'll try and talk fast.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so our mystery entrepreneur today is actually somebody everybody should know, part of the Big 3. If you know who the Big 3 are,
Yeah.
this should be easy. Just to set a time frame, he was born on April 2nd in 1875 in Kansas, and he grew up there with his career beginning as a machinist and a railroad mechanic. So that's where he started out.
Okay.
He began his career in the automotive industry in 1911 after meeting somebody named Charles Nash, who was then president of the Buick Motor Company, who was looking for a smart production chief. He resigned from his railroad position and took works with Buick at the whopping salary of $6,000 per year. And in 1916, which is only 5 years later,
We were just kids back then, Ron.
he resigned his position. In an attempt to keep him from leaving Buick, the president of GM offered him an unheard of salary at the time of $10,000 a month,
Month.
which is $165,000 in
Wow.
today's world.
Yes.
He also got a $500,000 bonus. In addition, he would have the full run of the Buick Motor Company without interference. Shortly afterward, his contract expired. He resigned from Buick over a disagreement of the future direction, and he left Buick with over $10 million in stock and became instantly one of the richest men in America. He demanded and got a salary of $1 million a year to turn over a company called Willys Overland Motor Company. If you recall, Willys was the one who manufactured the Jeep.
Yep.
During the war.
Oh, a big thing during the war. That's what really put it on the map, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, he had a career at Willys, and in 1925, he created his own company with his own namesake, and also the company Plymouth DeSoto, and he purchased Dodge in 1928. That same year, he financed the construction of a famous landmark building in New York, which was completed in 1930.
I remember, Okay, we are coming up on a break here on America's All Business Talk Show on the radio. Stay with us because we're coming right back after a message or two. Don't go away. We got a great show today.
Someday.
Yes. All right. We are back talking business. You're on the Biz Connection. We are talking, we're championing entrepreneurship on the show. And behind every business, we believe there's a story, and a great story, and a lot of them. In the Biz Connection, we just keep on telling them. Okay, if you got our mystery entrepreneur and you know who we're talking about, just go to our website, which is bizconnectionwi for Wisconsin.com, and go ahead and email us who we're talking about. And I've got a copy of Wayne's book today called LinkedIn Success. So
Brand new edition.
And I'm holding up a copy in front of our camera, which is shooting us as we're talking. And great book. He is back to talk more about this book. He's been on the air once before. Fascinating guest. Just an interesting fella and an entrepreneur in his own right.
That's right.
So great stuff to talk about. Okay, we are coming up on a segment of the show we call Idea Protection Tips from Tom. Tom is Tom Wilhelm, an attorney who is a patent attorney. He does intellectual property law. He does copyright law. He does everything in that world. And I went to Tom's office and we asked him a series of questions, and here's one of them. So listen up. Jim Rossetti here of the Biz Connection. I'm talking with Tom Wilhelm Law, and we are discussing patents and patent infringement. Which brings up a question today, Tom, that is on the minds of a lot of people, is what can we do in the event of patent infringement?
It's a great question, Jim. A lot of people are concerned about that because it's well known that the costs of enforcing a patent in a lawsuit is really high. They're very expensive.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so most people are concerned that if I get a patent and if somebody infringes it, is that my only option? And the answer is no. The good news is that's not your only option. It certainly is a plan B that sometimes has to be used. But if we look at historic records of patent infringement, we see that even where a lawsuit is started, over 90% of the cases never make it to trial. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to pay the costs, and particularly the attorney cost, of that infringement trial. So most cases, even if they get to the court, which many of them don't, but most cases never make it to trial. They get settled by negotiation as both parties learn more about the case. The more typical way to handle an infringement situation is to engage the infringing party in some sort of a conversation. You can do that by letter. You can do that by picking up the phone. Some people will call it a cease and desist letter. I tend to call it a nastygram. There are some pluses and minuses on all of these. There are risks, there are rewards going both ways, depending which one of the avenues that you choose. Most of our clients will opt for a an informal contact of some sort. Typically, it is by letter or by phone, to see if we can't work with the other party to bring a reasonable conclusion to the problem.
Right. So it doesn't always have to go to right to court litigation and high costs. There's a
You know, Jim, about half of my practice now has to do with resolving issues of infringement of one form or another, some sort of conflict. And it is rare for me to go to court. We just don't have to do that in most cases.
I think that's what people wanted to hear.
Well, that's the good news. The bad news is once in a while you have to, and right now we are involved in a very nasty litigation in
Sure.
the federal courthouse. It looks like it's going to go to trial, unfortunately, and sometimes you have to. But for the most part, you don't have to do that.
Okay, that's Attorney Tom Wilhelm. WilhelmLaw.com is the website. You can go to our website at bizconnectionwi.com and click onto his logo, and you'll be able to get right to his site. If you have a question for Tom, don't hesitate to fire it off, and we'll get it to him. That's our thank you again for joining us today, Tom.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Jim.
Okay, that was interesting because I think a lot of people feel once you get the patent that you're home free. Nobody's ever going to bother you, and that's not the case. You've got to protect that patent, and it can be expensive.
That's right.
So, you know, some people will invent a product and they'll get it out to the market quicker, and they'll be out there because they know copycats are going to steal that, and then they got to go and fight and protect it. But this way they get all the dollars they can out of it before the copycats get out there.
That's right.
So, anyway, we got a great show today, and a gentleman who has joined us earlier this year is back with us. Or was it last year?
It was last year.
Last
I believe.
year, okay. God, time flies when you're having a great time. Anyway, he's back with us. His name is Wayne Breitbarth, and the book is called LinkedIn Success. Kickstart your business, brand, and job search. The power formula for LinkedIn success. Welcome, Wayne, to the Biz Connection.
It's great to be back on, gents.
It is great to have you because I think last time we got a flood of emails about when is he coming back? When can we see Wayne? So people really responded to that show.
I love that. And the topic of LinkedIn and social media has gotten nothing but hotter.
Yeah, it's heating up. It's definitely heated up.
It really has. And, it's one of those things you can never learn enough about because it moves so quickly.
Yeah.
And even LinkedIn, I know they've made some changes lately.
One thing you can be sure of in social media, it's going to keep
It's going
changing.
to keep changing.
So if you want it to be constant, my friends, we got a problem.
Just like technology.
Well, Wayne, just for the listeners that may be joining us since the last time you were here, could we just quickly recap a little of your background that led you to writing this book?
Sure. Well, my background is when I discovered LinkedIn about almost 5 years ago now, it was as the owner of an office furniture dealership in Pewaukee, Wisconsin called M&M Office Interiors. And we were in the middle of this recession and trying to find ways to grow our business. And my partner and I were looking at each other like, I don't know, what are we going to do? I don't know, what are we going to do? Sort of like those two vultures in the Jungle Book or something, right? And that was about the time that I had a really good friend that was very persistent about bothering me about not being on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I was not going to do LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or any of them. I figured, you know what, I'm 52. I'll retire without needing this stuff. I was pretty positive about that, you know. Yeah. And months went by, and I was still hesitant. And finally, I just broke down one day on a trip and tried it, and I saw the power of it. You were talking about networking earlier on the show. That's one of the things LinkedIn does very well, and I've been sort of a natural networker, but when you think about it, it's like networking on steroids, really. Yeah. And the part I like about it, too, is it's networking while you can sit and watch the Packers or the Brewer game. I like both those things, but I feel guilty if that's all I do, right? And so, long story short, I started teaching people, and the classes were resonating, and I think they're resonating because a lot of people, especially baby boomers, were struggling, right? And I wasn't afraid to admit that I was struggling with it too.
Sure. Okay, hold the thought because we're coming up on a break here, and I don't want to. I know we got lots to talk about, and folks, listen up today. This is a good show, and there's things to be learned here. So you're on America's All Business Talk Show on the radio. We're talking business. We'll be back right after a message or two, so stay with us. We're coming back with Wayne Breitbarth.
sun lights up the daytime, the moon lights up the night.
Okay, we are talking biz. We're back after a short break here. Our guest is Wayne Breitbarth, and Wayne is the author of The Power Formula for LinkedIn Success. Great book, and just before the break, Wayne was giving us a little bit of his background, telling us about how he got started doing this. So now you're in the furniture business. Are you still a part of the furniture store, or is that gone by
Since the last time I was on, I sold my stock in my furniture business,
You sold your interest in it,
but I
okay.
still work there 2 days a week as the part-time CFO guy.
Ah, okay.
So I'd say I'm working my way out. My wife's a little nervous about that, but we'll deal with her later.
Well, the book must be doing pretty well. I mean, you're
Book's doing great.
speaking engagements. You're actually a celebrity now.
The book's doing great. We've sold over 30,000 copies of the first volume.
That's terrific.
And
yeah.
I travel all over the country, and the book really helped launch everything, really.
Yeah. So the book's on a fast track with you with it.
It's the number one selling LinkedIn book of all time, and there are about 25 books out there, So we're pretty happy about that. I just think we struck a chord with the fact that the first line in it says, "I never wanted to be on LinkedIn," right? That resonates with a lot of people.
Well, I can identify with that, Wayne, because I've been reluctant to dive in head first into the social medias. It gets to the point where you can't get away from it. It's part of 21st century marketing. And I think, so what is the big thing from you transitioning as a store owner or a private retailer going into using LinkedIn as a resource?
Well, the big thing is realizing what it'll do for you. So many people are dabbling around with all these different platforms. Ron and I were talking about it before the show, whether it's Pinterest or Google Plus or Facebook or Twitter. Everybody's trying to be everywhere instead of realizing that certain platforms are good for certain things and certain platforms fit your personality. And I threw them all in this one bucket that said, call them social media, and said, you know what, those are for my kids. I don't want to do that stuff.
Right.
But LinkedIn is not for your kids.
Right.
LinkedIn is for experienced business folks because it works on relationships and experiences.
Yeah.
And once people realize that they have different channels are different for different types of businesses and they have personalities, they might like some of them if they quit trying to be on every one. So there's that moment when you realize, you know what, I don't have to be on all of them. And that sets people free a little bit.
So, Wayne, that's a really good point. So let me ask you a question. How can you use LinkedIn just to market your business? And then I want to talk about some of the things you gave us about changes.
So what people need to do is LinkedIn starts out being a personal networking platform. So there's personal profiles, but there are also company pages, and that's fairly new. The last few years, the company pages have gotten to be more and more popular. But how they market themselves is by making sure they have a great profile, and that what great profile is defined as one that has lots of keywords, because remember, it's just a stupid search engine, and search engines work on keywords.
Okay.
So it's got to be loaded with keywords. But then secondly, if someone lands on your profile, is it clear what you do? So many profiles look like resumes, and when's the last resume you found that was interesting?
Well, what's interesting, you make that comparison because, in my prior life, I was in HR. And one of the things I always talked about people with resumes is don't let it just become a litany of responsibilities. Tell me about the results you produced, not just the litany of things that you've done or do.
That's great advice for your profile as well, Ron. Just don't let it be, well, I'm an accountant and I do Excel. Oh, that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's
why are you the accountant I need?
That's right.
Right? That's what I want you to do. And nice, different than a resume, which can't be more than 2 pages, right? Because that's sort of the space you're allotted. LinkedIn, your profile can be huge. And you don't worry about people reading the whole profile because nobody does. We scan. We look for pockets and things that we want to look at.
Sure.
So each one of those little sections can be a place for you to have keywords and stories.
So
Wayne,
we don't want to be vanilla ice cream. Is that what you're saying?
No, we had a speaker about that.
Right.
No, you want to stand out. I mean, because think about what people use profiles for. They're shopping for us. My latest example is they shop for us the way they shop for a Camry.
Yeah.
They go online, they search for whatever you do in the town you live in and go, well, here's the 50 people that do that. I'm going to look at profiles and figure out which one's the best.
So, Wayne, let me ask you a question, because you just mentioned something that kind of frustrates me, and I hear it in social media all the time. You mentioned this phrase called keywords. Well, how do I know what the keywords are that I should be using?
If you think about it simply, it's the words that you get Googled for, right? If you mention that to people, they get that a little clear. Okay, what words you get Googled for? So for me, it's LinkedIn trainer, LinkedIn consultant, LinkedIn author. When I used to be in office furniture, it was office furniture, it was interior design, it was Hayworth, the brand we sold. So it's really just the words that you would be Googled by. Now, some of those things are brands and products and services, and some of them would be professional things that you do.
Okay.
Accounting, certified public accountant, that would be a keyword. CPA, it's another keyword because people might not use the full term, they might use CPA to search.
Sure. Now, let me ask you, because I'm getting a barrage of people looking for endorsements on LinkedIn. And it seems like I'm seeing more and more and more of that. And I'm not exactly sure what my endorsing, are they going to put that out there for other people to see, or just exactly how does endorsement work?
Yeah, endorsements came out last fall, and that's the number one question I get at all of the seminars I teach. And it's because LinkedIn, you can't avoid them now. It pops up all over the place, this big blue box that says, do you want to endorse Jim? Jim, do you want to endorse Wayne? And it's actually sort of annoying, to tell you the truth. But here's what's going on with endorsements. The quick version is this. It's the Yelping of people, right? I mean, we all use things like Yelp to shop for restaurants, right? And ultimately, we're all going to have endorsements, hopefully for the right skills, and we'll have so many people that have endorsed us, and we're going to be compared. My wife won't let me go get a burger unless it's a 4-star. Same thing's going to happen to us.
So do those endorsements really help you build your profile?
They're going to. I mean, they're sort of new. They've only been around about 5-6 months now, but just wait. Think about it, Ron, over time. 2, 3, 4 years from now, they go, business coach. If I compare to you to some other business coach and you've got 400 endorsements and the other person I'm comparing to has 30, I go, well, they both look like nice guys. I've heard good things. He's got 400. I'll start with him.
Let me ask you another question. Where do the endorsements actually come from? I know they kind of pop up, but do they come from keywords within your profile? Is that where those come from?
They either come from skills that you already have listed, where it'll prompt your friends and say, hey, you're looking at Ron's profile. Would you like to endorse him for the following? Or if you don't have enough keywords, LinkedIn will guess. And sometimes their guesses are not very good. And that's how all of a sudden I see people, basket weaving, and he's a business guy. And I'll go, what the heck? You got basket weaving? He said, well, somebody endorsed me for that. I said, how did it get there? I said, because you said yes. I mean, LinkedIn, it's just a computer that does these things.
And when I get some of those, I try not to endorse somebody for a skill that I don't necessarily know they have.
Well, that's the right thing to do, Ron. I mean, integrity still trumps everything, right? And that should be the case. People go, well, endorsements are stupid because you can have a big endorsement party and everybody can just click. And I say, that's true. It's true.
If you let it.
Yeah, if you let it. But the bottom line is, if you can do what you just said, you should do it. If you can't, you don't.
Yeah, it's just, as I see that, it sounds like people are using me to hawk their position with other people. And that's okay, because some people I would readily endorse, but some people I'm not so sure. I really don't know enough about, because I haven't used their service, or I know they do it.
To me, it's as simple as this. If you can endorse them, great, wonderful, go ahead and do it. If you can't, you don't.
But then you're going to feel a little bit like, oh, that guy didn't endorse me. He was my friend. How come I didn't get an endorsement out of you?
I think over time that's going to settle down a little bit. We're only about 6 months into this crazy thing, and LinkedIn claims they're going to stop pushing as hard.
Sure.
So we'll see how that goes. They've got over 1 billion endorsements in about 6 months. They love the interaction. Remember what LinkedIn is all about.
Yeah.
Members. It's a public traded company. Members and interaction, and how long we're staying on the site, and they're trying to get interaction.
And I think that's a good point, that they're not going to generate automatic or leads or anything right away. It's more of a long-term thing. I mean, I got a endorsement this morning from an old boss I knew, 5 or 6 years ago at Mercury.
I mean, I still love recommendations.
He's just trying to
right?
butter you up.
Yep.
I'm still a
What's
fan
an old
of-
boss?
yeah.
He doesn't need to do that anymore.
Okay. All right. We are talking, you're on America's All Business Talk Show on the radio, and we are talking business here. And stay with us because we got a whole lot more to dive into with Wayne Breitbarth and LinkedIn success. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Unforgettable.
Oh, yes. We're all unforgettable this morning, I'd say. Good show, good stuff. We're talking with Wayne Breitbarth, and our subject this morning is Wayne's book, The Power Formula for LinkedIn Success. I want to remind folks to guess our mystery entrepreneur, and it's going to be this one that'll get the book. And Wayne will autograph the book. And if you guess who we're talking about, I'll be glad to send. It's got to be the first one in, though.
That's right.
To tell us who we're talking about. This is a great book. So if you've got a little library, as I do at home, this book will be a great addition. Believe me.
And
Yeah.
Wayne has also agreed to give us a couple of pieces of material we can put out on our website.
Yes.
One is called 10 LinkedIn Mistakes Companies Make. Mm-hmm. And, the other thing is don't whine about LinkedIn's changes, capitalize on them. And that's one of the things I want to talk about in this segment. But I know that you have something you want to talk to first.
On the break, I was talking to Wayne, and I kind of drilled him a little bit for a question. In my case, Wayne, I do 3 or 4 different things. I don't know if I do them any good, but I do them. And some people know me from this thing that I do, and others know me from another thing that I do. But my question to you is, how do I profile myself out there with all these different things? People are going to think, hey, this guy can't be good at anything. He's got too many things on his plate. So I was going to ask your advice on that. Yeah.
Many people are in this marketplace have more than one thing going on, right? I mean, the world's different.
Yeah.
And the
We
no
multitask.
question. And they all come together to be a nice career, right? One thing you don't want to do is you don't want more than one profile.
Yeah.
Because you're one person. So
Sure.
start with that, one profile. But then, like me, I've got office furniture and I've got LinkedIn. Well, 2 things could be more different.
Well, plus you're an author, too.
Plus an author. And I do have different sections for that. So here's what you need to do, Jim. You need to decide how much you're going to emphasize, let's say 3 different things you got going on. But be sure to include them all. And the summary is sort of like a cover letter on your profile.
Sure.
In that summary, sort of explain to the world where your emphasis is and what things happen during work days and part-time or whatever. Use that summary as a bridge to the 3 different things that you do, which should be listed down in your experience.
Okay.
Now, you will have to decide when it comes to the keywords. Like on your headline, you only get 128 characters. That's not enough space for all 3 businesses' keywords. So there you have to do some picking and choosing. But whatever you do, don't shortchange yourself by skipping that 3rd thing because you go, well, I've already got 2. Well, you don't know what combination of experiences the person reading your profile goes, I really love this about Jim. He does this, and that's perfect for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point. You mentioned keep them all somewhere in the profile, but kind of zero in on what do you like to do or what are the things you're really good at and put them up front, right? I mean, it's kind of like the old 80-20 rule. We all do a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what's that 20% that is really your sweet spot?
Yeah, what you're good at, Ron, or what's making you money. I mean,
That's right.
Right? Which is the part of your business that's going the best? Maybe that's the one you highlight.
Well, I look at them all. I'm flapping my jaws, right? I'm shooting my mouth off on any one of them, so that ties them all together, I guess.
And there's nothing wrong sort of saying that,
Yeah,
Jim.
yeah.
I love talking to people. I love business guys, and I'm doing these 3 things. And
Super. Oh, okay. I mean, there's so much we can go on for hours with talking about LinkedIn, but you've discovered a whole world out there at using LinkedIn. And at first, you were a little standoffish, and then you embraced it, and so your life has really changed dramatically just from doing that, hasn't it?
well, I spend the most of my time now. Little time in my office furniture business that I used to own, but now I spend most of the time traveling the country, helping business folks and speaking at seminars. And, what's interesting is the change that's taken place over the 4 years from business people going, nah, it's going to go away or whatever, to now, I better get all my people on board with this thing, huh? Yeah.
Wayne, I'm just, we're coming down to the last segment of the show, and I just want to try and touch on a couple areas here. And the new book is, what did you say, 50 pages longer?
Yes, that's correct.
It's a new edition. So I know there's some new changes, and one of the things I'm looking at here says, don't whine about LinkedIn's changes, capitalize on them. So I'm wondering if maybe you could just quickly kind of summarize what some of those changes are that people whine about and how we can capitalize.
Sure. Well, they whine about every change, Ron. So
I know.
let's start with that.
I live in a world of
And so do I.
whiners.
A couple of
Why did they change
I
that?
know. A couple of really exciting changes that have taken place. LinkedIn has given us more ways that when we land on a person's profile, we can see what we have in common. And I call those the icebreaker sections, where if I'm looking at your profile, Ron, it'll show me the interests we have in common, the groups we have in common, the town we have in common, the school we have in common, the volunteer causes. It'll have those things highlighted in the little in common with section to go, this is what you can talk to Ron about before you launch into the business conversation. That's one thing I really love. A second thing I love is we now have the ability to search into one person's connection list using keywords. So in other words, if I'm going to meet with you for lunch today and I want to make sure by the end of that lunch I talk to you about a few of your friends that are right in my wheelhouse, I can do that search right from by going on your profile using certain keywords and say, hey, Ron, by the way, I'm buying lunch today. And because of that, I want you to introduce me to these two people in
So
your
you,
network.
you can find out who I know who might be beneficial to you.
Bingo. That was
Right.
never available. That's really a great feature.
Well, it's just like my friend from Bob Berg said in his book, Endless Referrals. Who do I know that knows you, that knows
Hey,
all of us?
That's what it's all about. It's not always, what you know. It's a lot of times it's about who you know.
I guess we're somehow all interconnected in a little way, but LinkedIn's brought us closer, I
Right.
think, and it's brought us in touch with people that maybe we haven't been in touch with for years. I'm finding even Facebook and things are bringing me into contact with people that I haven't heard from for a while, and it's nice. Yeah.
And Wayne, I just want to really touch on this really quickly too, but you've got 10 LinkedIn mistakes companies make. So what are some of those big mistakes?
Probably the biggest one is not realizing that every profile of all your employees are doing one of two things, helping or hurting your company brand.
Right.
I heard so many stories now where owners will come to me and say, I've looked at this, my sales guy's profile, it looks like this and this and this. I said, okay, so what are you doing about it? What can I do about it? I said, well, you can sit down and train them. You can tell them we're going to bring a photographer in and take nice photos, and we're going to describe our businesses in a consistent way that's our brand. Most employees want to do the right thing. It's just they're not getting instruction.
That's really interesting because I used to work at a large employer, and one of the things we found was, the different salespeople. We had salespeople all over the United States, and they'd be selling the same product, but they'd all describe it differently. So, if that's going on inside of LinkedIn, it can create confusion.
I was working with one of the largest banks around, and I was working with the PR and marketing department about LinkedIn, and I got all done with my little pitch with those people and what they wanted to do at LinkedIn. I said, no, what are you doing with your bankers? What do you mean, what are we doing with bankers? I said, are you helping them with their profiles? Well, not really. And I said, well, watch this. I searched commercial loan, Milwaukee, and up comes one of their bankers with a terrible picture and no great description of how good this bank was. And I said, look, you think I'm going to place a line of credit with that
That's
dude?
right. He comes up with a martini glass in his picture or something like that.
So every profile either helps or hurts your company.
Hey, wait a minute, Ron. That might be a good thing if
It
I'm
might
trying
be.
to get a
If you're-
loan.
If you're selling martinis.
Yeah, I guess it is. But, you see some of those pictures on other social networking vehicles where you kind of wonder, does that really present the right image? And that happens on LinkedIn too.
Yeah, people just assume I'll use the same picture I used on Facebook. What's a different platform?
Right. I think, and I from just what you said, I tried to wear more business attire and look a little more business-like on the LinkedIn, and I do see it for more in the world of professionalism and business.
One of the other
Yeah.
things, Ron, from that mistakes article is to not realize how important keywords are. I was working with a sales force of 150 sales guys the other day, and I said, so tell me what your keywords are, and we wrote them on a board, and I said, let's look for you guys on LinkedIn. Now, there's 150 salespeople, by the way. I searched them. It took me page 7 before I got to one of their salespeople, and I said, listen, that's 69 people were ahead of you in the search. The next thing you know, we plugged that keyword in their profile several times, and get this. Same search, 20 minutes later, got 8 of the 10 people were for their company. I said, you look like you're the only people selling this stuff.
Well, You know, going over the history of what you. How long has it been since you? Did you say about 5 years?
That's correct.
That you jumped on board here. Did you have any idea you were going to be an author at this stuff before it was all said and done?
Isn't that the way some things work? The best things sometimes are not planned by us. The good Lord's got a plan, and we can just roll with it sometimes. And this is one of those cases for me.
Where do you see this going, Wayne? As far as
for me personally,
more books?
I mean, I really enjoy the speaking, and I'll keep writing because writing is a good part of the platform. Where do I see LinkedIn going? I mean, 1 million new people join LinkedIn every week.
Sure,
every
sure.
week.
Yeah.
And there's 225 million, and LinkedIn tells us there's 750 million business folks in the world, so we got a little ways to go.
Yeah. Has it proliferated as fast as Facebook and some of the other social? I know it's gotten big now.
Well, Facebook's got 1 billion people, and so that number is sort of cool. But they're not all business folks, and they yak about so much stuff that isn't business. I just get when I go to Facebook, I get bogged down.
Yeah. That I kind of feel the same way. I don't feel like. Well, listen, we're coming down the stretch. We don't want to let them out of here without.
This show went really fast, didn't it?
We got time for a biz tip?
We do.
Okay. Wayne, we're going to turn the floor over to you because a little pearl of wisdom for our listeners before we go.
Okay, so here's my business tip. I'm going to give you the freedom to not be on every social media site that everybody tells you have to be on.
Thank you.
And so my business tip is to do your homework on these sites and figure out which one makes sense because your audience is there and because it feels comfortable to you what's going on. But then the last part of this tip is to make sure that you have a stellar profile loaded with keywords and loaded with stories. Some stories you tell, some stories other people tell, endorsements and recommendations. So don't try to be everywhere. You're better off not being on a site and somebody goes, well, I guess Wayne's just not on Facebook. That's better than having a crappy profile on Facebook because you don't get out to it and you don't like it. And to tell you the truth, I told my daughter yesterday, I think I'm going to get off Facebook. And
Great
I'm serious.
advice. Great advice.
Okay, you heard it from the horse's mouth. Wayne, I want to thank you once again for coming in and doing the show with us today. And you'll be back.
It was such a blast. I appreciate being back on with you guys. It's lots of fun.
Okay. All right, that's our show for this week. And I don't want you to forget to go out and tell us who is our mystery entrepreneur so I can get a copy of Wayne's book in your hands. And if you've got a certain guest or you've got a show idea that you think we should cover, give us an email. Let us know or tell us on LinkedIn. And anyway, stay with us because every week we'll blast you with who's coming. We'll send out an email blast. Go ahead and opt into our website and let us have your email address, and we'll make sure that you get notified of who's coming on the show. That's our show, Ron. Thanks for being with us. You did a great job, sir, keeping us honest.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Cause it's witchcraft, cuckoo witchcraft.